Welcome back, wannabes and creators, to another episode of The Business of Art, the podcast that attempts to demystify business for artists. And today we have another live episode for you. This one is from Alternative Press Expo 2016, better known as APE. It is another How to Build an Audience from Scratch panel, this time with Norm Harper from Karate Pet Shop, an all-ages publisher that has a fantastic reimagining of Rikki Tikki Tavi called Ricky. Should definitely check that one out. Also on the panel is Gwendolyn Dreyer, who is the editor and business manager for Monster Elementary, an all-ages comic book about a group of monsters who are forced to attend a human elementary school. It's fantastic. You should definitely check that one out too, from Space Goat Productions. Before we get on with the episode, I want to ask you guys a question. Do you guys hate commercials? Me too. That's why I have Amazon Prime, Netflix, HBO, Stars, and basically only watch things that are sin commercials. Because of that, I created a course on Teachable with all of our hard lessons, ranterludes, and all 3 of our mini seasons from the first 100 episodes. That's 74 episodes, over 8.5 hours of content, and no commercials. So if you love the business of art, but hate all the commercials, head on over to thebusinessofart.us/volume1 and pick up your course today for just $20. That's 74 episodes, over 8.5 hours of content, all for just $20. And with that being said, let's get on with the episode. I want to remind you all that this is a live episode, so you're going to hear some jankiness in the audio. When you're live, these things happen. So if you can get past that, you're in for a treat because there's a ton of value in this episode. Take it away, Norm, Gwen, and me. Let's talk about how to build an audience from scratch. I want to ask both Norm and Gwen this first question, and I want you to answer it while you introduce yourself. So introduce first, and then answer the question. If you could go back, take all the things you learned right now, but you had no audience, you had no nothing, you've never sold a book, what would you do first to cut a year off your audience building time?
That's a really good question. My name's Gwendolyn Dreyer. I am the editor and business manager of Monster Elementary. It's an all-ages graphic novel for kids, graphic novel series. Do you have an answer right out of the gate? I'm thinking really hard because it's such a good question.
I do not, we haven't had an audience for a year yet.
Well, that's why I brought Norm on. So I brought Gwen on because she's been doing this. This is her second volume. Her book is published through Space Goat, and they have been at a lot of shows. Whereas Norm is on here because he is a publisher himself, and he has literally just started. And I am on this panel because I moderated it and I put it together, but mostly because I have been on the publishing and creating side for 6 years, really, since we started. I started really creating stuff, and I've launched and built an audience without a publisher, without being hired for Marvel or DC or even like John's comic book. Like, it's all like me talking directly to an audience. So that's why Gwen is on, because she's had some experience, a lot of experience at shows. Norm has a lot of experience, but he's building his brand right now, and I have a little bit more established brand. So how about I answer the question first?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to steal something that my friend Barbara said, Barbara Dillon, who runs Fanbase Press. She started her company, which used to be Fanboy Comics, which is a review site. They were creating their first graphic novel, and they knew it wouldn't be done for a year. And they didn't want to wait a year because that's crazy. Like, you can't build an audience the day your book launches. You have to have 6 to 12 months before you even really launch a product to start building an audience. So what she did is she started a review site. She started reviewing comic books and reviewing things for the exact audience that she was targeting when her book launched. And now the interview portion and the review site took off, and like, it's very successful. And that's where a lot of what she's known for, and her husband is known for, and the site is known for, is the comics, the reviews that they do of movies and TV and audio dramas and such. But she started that site before her book was even close to being done, as a way to build an audience of people and start giving value to people before they ever didn't ask. And if I were to give one piece of advice, maybe we don't have to say what you would do, but what one piece of advice you would give.
Yeah.
However you want to do it. Hopefully I'm going to talk until y'all have
That's
have
okay.
an
I
answer.
found an answer.
Cool. All right, so value first. That's mine. I'll come back to that in a second.
I wouldn't have cut a year off because we fund through Kickstarter, and my husband's the writer and we own the company. So we spend most of our time waiting on our publisher and our artists and for the Kickstarter campaign to go. So most of where we waste time is waiting for other people we do business with to get their stuff together. But I will say, when you were talking about building your fan base first, we launched our Facebook page the same day we launched the Kickstarter. I should have launched that Facebook page months in advance of that Kickstarter, if not just to get my friends and family totally aware of what was going on. You know, we had people who knew this project has been trying to get launched for 3 years, and we had fans that were just fans of the idea. I should have got them on board well before because I spent so much time at the beginning of that first Kickstarter just getting people who I should have been spending the time before the Kickstarter launch, getting the friends and family and people we know on board, so then I could have completely focused the 30 days of our Kickstarter on getting strangers on board. That would have been a much better use of my time.
Absolutely. I've had so many people who came when I first did the original Kickstarters or launch products, because you don't want to bug people, right? Like it's like, oh, I don't want to be a nuisance. But what ended up happening is a lot of people were like, why didn't I know about this? Like, more people were hurt that I didn't personally reach out to them about the launch than people were like, oh, I'm so annoyed with this thing. So I totally agree where, you need that base. They say you can't do crowdfunding without a crowd. Norm, do you have an answer?
No. No, we launched Credit Pet Shop. Our first book came out October last year, so we're about a week out from being a year old.
Well, what's the best piece of advice you've learned so far about the audience building process?
The thing that I found most helpful is sounds terrible, but look at Hollywood and copy their business model. Our bestseller is Ricky. It's a graphic novel adaptation of Ricky Tikki Tavi. And people see it and they go like, oh, I know what that is, and they come to your table. And that's, people complain about Hollywood doing that kind of thing all the time. This was a passion project for me. I loved the story growing up, and I wanted, ever since childhood, I'd watch the Chuck Jones cartoon and I'd be like, this is amazing. I want it to be 2 hours. I want Don Bluth to make the Secret of Him version of Ricky Tikki Tavi, because cobras and mongooses fighting is the coolest thing ever. And I grew up and nobody had made it, and I said, okay, I'll make it myself. But then when that draws somebody to my table, then when we have something that's a little bit harder to pitch, a little bit more low concept, like Tap Water and Tuna Party, I've got them at the table, I can talk to them. So I didn't do this just for the commercial, it was something I genuinely loved, but it brings people over and lets me then sell. So if you've got something like that you love, that you can put your stamp on, that then you can put out and then go and do something that's more personal and a little harder to wrap your head around, having the one will help you sell the other. And so
that's so true. We have the same thing with, our little monsters. They're not universal monsters because they can't be, but they're the basic 5 universal monsters, and everyone who sees them knows what they are. So I've already got half my pitch done for me. I don't have to explain the concept behind monsters going to school, and we picked a title that's very easy to understand. So the pitch is not so much about what it is, it's more about what makes the book different than all the other monster stories out there, which is such a better thing to talk to people about than trying to just explain, I have 5 monsters, they go to, you know what I mean? It's better to talk about the nitty gritty of the book.
Absolutely. I mean, I think people so often get lost in this idea of what a book is and how the book functions instead of the why you should buy it. And in truth, the why is why someone buys it. Look, nobody needs these books. No, it's not breathing. It's not like mine too. Like, this is not food. It's not like how to how to lose 50 pounds in 20 days. It's not like how to get out of debt. Like, these are things that edify your soul and have an emotional reaction to somebody. So if you're pitching, this is a book about a psychopath that escapes a mental asylum because of monster, and like that's the what of the book, if that is where the pitch ends, or even where it really begins, you know, you're not conveying the why of why this connects with someone. I'm actually, before, I want to get your opinions on that, but I have I'm going to pass around this tablet which has the podcast's email list. So we send you all the new episodes. If you don't want to sign up, that's cool, but I'm going to pass it around in case you guys want to. This will be on the podcast so you guys can wrap this up next week. So you guys can listen to it again. Go ahead. Gwen, do you have anything to add to that? Not the podcast thing.
Yeah,
the
I
vlog.
think, you know, as I'm not the writer or the artist, as the editor, my job is to help the writer and artist tell the story in the best way possible. So my job is not to tell them what the story is. It's to know what story they're trying to tell and make sure they're telling it in the best possible way. And I conversations I have with my husband, the writer, all the time is he wants to do something, and I constantly am like, so why do I need this story in the book? Why is this a story that needs to be told? Why do these characters have to tell this story? So it's not, people get so wrapped up in the like, well, I don't want to sell out, so I don't want to use things that are already done, or I don't want to have to add like an educational component, or I don't want to, and they get wrapped up in feeling like we're telling people we're forcing you to do something with your art that you don't want to do, and that's not actually true. Mm-hmm. What you're doing is you're giving your audience a reason to want to read your book, which is the whole point of what we're doing. You know, it's the whole point of matter. And if you give your audience a reason why your book is different than every other book out there, you're not selling out or forcing anything. You're just telling the best stories you possibly can to resonate with the largest amount of people.
Absolutely. Norm, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think of storytelling a lot like cooking, actually. So when you're like, oh, but that's been done before, the idea is like, yeah, everybody takes like pasta and they pair it with a marinara sauce, but every time you go to a new restaurant, you want their expression of that.
Right.
And so I think people tend to, when they're creating something, they're afraid of a cliche when it's really just like, that's just the recipe, man. But like, it's your expression of that recipe that makes it worth ordering. So
right. I mean, we watched the Chef's Table on Netflix, and that show is all about like the best restaurants in the world. These little Chef's Table restaurants, which have 30 or 40 seats, they charge like $200 to $500, and it's all about the expression of how this person takes street tacos, which is street tacos, they're $1, and somehow charges $200 for it because like it's this weird kind of, it's their expression of a thing, which to me, to build an audience is about understanding the idea that not everyone is going to like your stuff. Like out of the 30 or 20 or 30 or 35 people here, most people aren't going to like Girls That Kick Ass or Psychological Mind Screws. Like that's not the thing that they're going to like. And they're not all going to be into an all ages monster book. They're not going to be about a retelling of Ricky. But hopefully out of 25 people, 30 people in this room, 3 or 4 will be into this, 3 or 4 will be into that thing, and 3 or 4 will be into that. And I think so often creators, when they think about message they're trying to say or who they're trying to talk to, they're trying to find what can I say to all 30 of these people, when in reality, these 30 people are going to drown out your message if you try to talk to all of them.
Yeah, so how do I say this? So the books are primarily comedy adventure, but we have this really nice subtextual storyline that goes through about how these kids, they're at a monster school, it gets shut down by the FBI, and then they have to integrate into human public school. So it's very much that story of, I don't belong here, I don't feel like I belong here, everyone's shunning me, I can't figure out my social group, no one wants me to be here, how do I find my way in the world like that? And yeah, not everybody is going to ever have felt like, if some people go through life perfectly fine, everyone loves them, they're social, but for those people,
yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
No one on this panel knows. But a lot of people do feel like that fish out of water at some point in their life, and those are the people we're trying to reach. If you don't relate to that, that's great, that's fine. You don't relate to that, this book may not be for you. But if you do relate to that, here are some stories that might make you feel better, might help you. You can relate to the characters, see how they deal with their problems.
Right. Well, on top of that, both you and Norm make books for younger children who are not my audience. So I actually refer a ton of people at my table to both of these booths, and I hope they do the same to me. I don't know, I don't ask, but I do it because, look, if someone's less than 16 or they haven't watched Friday the 13th at least, like, they just need to move past my booth. Like, there's nothing for them. Like, there's nothing for them. If they like superheroes, there's nothing for them, and that's okay. But maybe they'll see something from these booths, or maybe I was talking to, I think, you guys about the pins. Or my friend Dave does these amazing pins, and it's like, maybe, hey, that's cool. Like, you go there and find the thing that you want, because part of building an audience is understanding that your audience is a small subset of all of these people, and the more you can target those people, the more success you're going to have. Most people that I think are sort of having a lower sales at shows are these people that have these enormous print walls that just are trying to get every single person to buy a little something. And the people that are having more success are people like the people on this panel, because they're not trying to target every single human being. They're trying to find the 4 people in this audience who will buy everything that they make for the rest of their lives, because everything speaks to them.
Yeah, it's a much more effective way of trying to target. I like, you're reminding me a lot about how if you ever try to do a Facebook advertisement and asks you what demographic you want to appeal to, because Facebook has one of the largest customer bases with the most demographical information about its customer base, which that's a whole nother panel on its own, and whether that's good or bad, but they do have it all, right? So it's actually, if you know who your audience is, that's some of the most effective, in my opinion, some of the most effective internet advertising you can do. Because I can go in, and when we run our Kickstarters, I say, I want people who say they like comic books, and I want people who say specifically that they like all ages comic books, and then I want people also who say that they like monster comic books. So all I have to do is put in monster, all ages, and comics books, and there's still thousands of people that list all of those interests in their thing. And I'm like, yes, don't waste my time showing my money showing my ad to people who don't have those interests. Show all of my advertisements to just that group. And my Facebook advertising, you can see when you do your Kickstarter where your pledges come from, like what link takes them from what website. And Facebook is one of my biggest people because I know how to use the targeting on
I think
Facebook.
I think that's why you don't have, so many people don't have success doing that. I want to ask this question to Norm. He hasn't said anything for a while. One of the things that when I talk about audience building is how to build an audience from scratch is that you really don't need that many people who will buy a bunch of your stuff to be successful. Like when you're looking at a world of 7 billion people, and if everyone's buying something at a $10 profit margin, hopefully, you need 10,000 people, which sounds like a lot, but out of 7 billion people, that is very little. There's a very few amount of people that you actually need. Now, I want to talk about your book, your new book, the Tuna Party, Tapwater and Tuna Party, because it's drawn by the same person who draws Ricky, right? So are you finding people that are buying that have bought Ricky and then are buying both books or buying together, or how is that working for you?
Yeah, some people definitely, like I said, Ricky will bring people to the table and they'll flip through it, but it may not be for them. They may just be there because it's like, oh wow, I remember that. Let me look at the book, but I'm not here for specifically like talking animal kind of stuff. And what I see is, or some people will fall in love with it and they're like, I want a copy, and I said, oh, well, if you like the art in that, then this is the cartoon that Matthew Foltgrave, the artist, and Ricky writes and draws. Take a look at this too. And so it'll either be like, oh yes, I love them both, or it'll be like, I came over here because I was interested, like I was just curious, but this isn't for me. Oh, but look at this, drawn by the same guy. And then I translate a lot of, I just want to flip through Ricky into sales of Tapwater.
And that's so powerful as an artist. Like I talk a lot about the unfair advantage of artists versus writers, and the unfair advantage of the artist is that you can build a following from a very unique style. Like the more unique your style is, the better you're going to have success targeting that audience who loves your style. The person I always use is Lisa Hannawalt. Does anyone know Lisa Hannawalt's work? She draws BoJack, but she started doing these weird kind of horses. Like, I don't have like, they're not anatomically good horse drawings, but they're very like unique to her. I have a book called Gherkin Boy and the Dollar of Destiny, which is about a pickle that falls into a black hole. It really does not have any business ever selling one copy based on the the traditional art quality alone. In fact, we're sitting here in a room full of zines, which most of them, if you pick them up and just judge them by the technical quality of whether they will ever work for Marvel and DC, you would say no to probably 90% of them. But that's okay, because the unfair advantage of the artist is to find people who resonate with your weird horse drawings, or your, or anything that you do. The Ricky and the tap water and tuna party, like those people end up having success. And even the people that do the print walls, the ones that have the success are the ones that are doing their unique take on this kind of on characters like Deadpool and Gwenpool and all the other pools and the spider things, but it's like their own thing, as opposed to a writer whose unfair advantage is the amount of different kinds of things that they can do and the speed of which they can do them. Like Nick, who is the writer of Monster Elementary, he's able to pump out work in this world much faster than a person can draw it. So the more different kinds of things that he has, like I always tell people, if you like monsters, I have monsters. If you don't like monsters, like, you're in the wrong place. But like, if you like monsters, I have all sorts of different kinds of things in that space, because that's where I've sort of targeted my audience, like people that want to think deeply and be entertained by the work that you have. So I don't know what I was going to do with that. Go for it, Gwen.
I wanted to talk a little bit about finding your underserved market as well.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so we started out by doing just comic book conventions and doing comic shop signings, and we did great. It's not that we didn't do well, we did great, but we were like, what can we do to move beyond this, just the people that go to conventions? This was before our publisher. And we found a convention in Los Angeles called Scare LA. That's a Halloween convention. And I called the sales manager and I was like, so do you guys ever have graphic novels or comic books exhibit? And they're like, no. And I'm like, do you have kids that come? And she's like, well, we have a kids area. I'm like, how many kid vendors do you have? And she goes, 1 or 2. And for some people, they'd be like, I'm out. And I was like, no, that sounds like you need kid vendors there. All the parents who come to get their gore on and then want to bring something back to their kid, or maybe are just shocked to see something for their kid. Maybe they'll bring their kid next year. And I was like, well, can I be next to the kids area? And she's like, oh, well, we charge for placement. And I'm like, well, I don't want to pay to not be next to gore, because as a kids vendor, you should be serving me. I don't mean to that didn't come out right, but you know what I mean. It's like, I shouldn't have to pay to have my entire demographic scared away from my booth because you got gore on either side. So I'm like, so if you put me next to the kids area, I'll buy a booth. And she's like, okay, that's a deal. We sat up right next to the kids area. Thank you. Scare LA is our second best show all year. We are one of 2 or 3 kids vendors who go, and parents are so excited to see us because they wanted to bring something back for their kids. And the kids who are there, the parents go, oh my gosh, this is kid friendly? And I'm like, we are kid safe. No one will yell at you here. We will not start bleeding randomly. Like, if you need, and we've had parents who their kids are crying because of other booths who like just plop them in front of our booth, and they're just so grateful that we're like, no, stay as long as you want. They'll buy everything we have on the table just to make their kid happy. I know that sounds bad, but like, this is the business side of your art. It works, And so like, don't just, know what your demographic is, and then figure out where your demo is being underserved and where you won't have as much competition as other places.
Norm, I'd love you to speak to this too, because you do something new at your booth, which does something similar to the underserved market with your coloring. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. This has been in place exactly 3 hours, so who knows how well.
You did it it's a week and 3 hours.
It was full when I went by, so I think it's going pretty well.
The booth next to us didn't show up today, so I took the barrier between us down and I turned their table on the side, and I brought, we give out free coloring sheets and crayons that are our Ricky banner. So like, you don't want to buy a book, but take this, it's got our website info on it, take it home to your kid, and maybe you'll look us up later. So I turned the table and I put out a bunch of coloring sheets and I laid out some crowns and I used the chairs that were already there from the booth, and now we have a free coloring station. If your feet are tired, if your kid's grumpy, sit them down, color, and that keeps you right next to my product, and we can talk to you.
But here's what it does. So here's what that does is the longer you can get somebody to stay at your booth, it always goes back to a con talk, but like the longer you can get someone to stay at your booth, the more likely they are to buy from you. Look, I talked to the people up front for a couple minutes. Hopefully they'll come back to the booth a couple minutes and the more they like you, the more they trust that you have good product, the more likely they are to buy from you. This is anything, literally anything in your life. It all comes down to a sales funnel. People need to know you, which means you need to have a lot of people come at the top. It's great for cons. Then some of those people will like you, some of those people will trust you, and some of those people will buy from you.
Yeah, funnel shaped like this.
It ends up being, it's real simple. So like we all have people we know. We all have people we went to school with who we knew and hated. People we liked but wouldn't trust with $1. And people we trusted but wouldn't buy from because their product isn't great. But we all have that awesome friend who, like, if you give them $5, they're going to come back with the dopest thing in the world. And like, those are the people. It doesn't happen often. You have to know a lot of people to find like that one or a couple of dope friends who like see things the way you do. And just because you don't think that friend's going to come back with dope stuff doesn't mean someone else doesn't think that someone else won't buy, but won't give that person $5. Just your tastes don't match. So the longer you can keep someone at your booth or inside that sort of audience funnel, the more they're likely to buy. But again, with these people up front, like we talked for a while, I was like, oh, like probably not necessarily the groovinest thing that we're like working together, but like I see this other thing that you're really like into. So like, hey, I'm into that stuff too. There's a thing. And the more you can even point stuff. So now I'm sort of giving social proof to somebody who like, they may like me and trust me but not buy from me, but because they trust me, I can very easily be like, those people you gotta go to, because those people are gonna give you exactly what you want.
I also wanted to, I see your hand.
Yes, promise. Yes.
That's sort of a quick question. You talked briefly about internet advertising and like Facebook advertising, and I've heard very mixed things from people who do, I guess you'd say, more of a niche business, like you're saying, with regards to like the Facebooks, your Googles, big internet advertising companies, that sometimes you can get your name out there to a lot of people, but because it's so broad, your sort of conversions are terrible. Like a bunch of people come to your website and like they all kind of come there not looking for the right thing and leave. Can you talk briefly about like, has that been successful?
Don't lie to your audience. And I'm not saying you specifically, I'm just saying in general, if you can get someone to click on your advertisement on the internet, you should have a home run pretty much at that point. Now, that's not always true, and we do know you lose some people, but if you can manage to get people who've never seen you before to click on your advertisement and you can't bring that home into a sale, you've done something wrong between the point that they click on your ad and when you get them to their shopping cart and plus click. You need to make if you're taking them to your website, you need to make it very easy for them to find where to buy the product and where to go. They should not be hunting through menus. You should maybe have a pop-up ad on your thing. If you're trying to get them on your mailing list, your pop-up ad should be mailing list. Like the least amount of clicks between their initial click on your ad to buying your book that should be your map of how you get them through your website.
So you say things to focus on are making sure that the right people are seeing it.
Yes.
You can actually narrow it enough, and then the flow from that point should be very, very.
Yes, I cannot tell you how many independent comic book creators' websites I go to and I don't know how to buy their book. And it drives me absolutely batty. Like we put our pop-up is our mailing list because we want it, right now we're actively trying to increase that mailing list because Facebook and Twitter, Twitter not so much, but Facebook's changing how businesses can be seen in feeds and they're making it very difficult. So we're trying to build up our mailing list. And then after the pop-up, they click the X and there's my home page. And I have some basic things on the home page. That's my events, because we do have a lot of our people, we've built up our con fan base, so I want them to be able to see where we're going to be next. And then we have our Facebook feed, because I don't have a separate news feed on my website. That's a waste of my resources. So I do all my news on my Facebook and then feed it to my website. So maximize your time and your efforts as well. Don't do the work twice if you don't have to. And then my menu at the top, I have very simple ones. It's like home, about, preview. So I have a preview of both books, 8-page preview of both books, so people can see what they want. Try to give them the con experience online. And there's a big button that says shop. And then if you click shop, it says, do you want to buy a physical copy or do you want to buy digital? And then they either go to my page that has my iBooks, Comixology, my whatever listings, and then the rep from shop, physical, there's my shop. It's very, make your menu items easy, your buttons easily found. Do not make it difficult for people to buy from you.
All right. Norm, do you have any experience with Facebook ads?
I maintain a Facebook page for the company, but I don't generally do the sponsored advertising. I don't do very much of my sales online at all.
Yeah.
But I maintain the Facebook and the Twitter, and I make sure my artists are doing the same, and we use that just to get the point of contact, just so that it's in your brain. Like, I get a lot of people coming up to my booth now, and it's like, I've seen you online, because they saw a review of Ricky, or they just saw something in the Twitter feed that somebody else retweeted of me, so they know, oh, Karate Pet Shop, I recognize that. And my wife works in like legitimate marketing for her day job, so I rely on her a lot. But there's just kind of there's a rule of 15 points of contact. It used to be 7. They say it's 15 now. But if people have just seen you, if they've seen you at a con, if they've seen your logo or your book online somewhere, after about 15 times, then they'll buy you. So the more you put yourself out there, then because I've never run if I was doing a Kickstarter, I would do more.
That's the only time we run ads is during the Kickstarter because of the time constraints.
Oh, so I so want to talk about this then. So I have a whole thing. I have a whole thing about this specific thing to go to your question. Is there 2 types of audiences? One is cold and one is warm. Does anyone know what a cold versus warm audience is? All right, so a cold audience is someone who doesn't know you. The people at the very top of your funnel, not even at the top of your funnel. Your warm audiences are people in your funnel. Most people, when they run ads, they target cold audiences, but send them to pages that are meant for warm audiences. So for instance, your Kickstarter page is a warm audience page. It is something where so you expect someone to know something about you before they go to your page, right? Like, it's much easier to get someone to buy a hammer at Home Depot if they're already in Home Depot, right? Those are warm audience people. But if nobody knows what a Home Depot is, it's much harder to get someone to buy a hammer at their store instead of other stores. So when you're targeting ads, it's important to know which your market is. Now, with warm audiences, you can target them and send them right to a Kickstarter, right to a buying page, right to somewhere where they can buy your thing, because you expect that they've been in your funnel long enough that they know who you are and what you're doing. But with a cold audience, and these are the hardest ads because they generally don't pay off very quickly, so you're literally just pissing money away at the beginning because there's no immediate return. Like, you have to know how your funnel works. You know how long it takes from someone to meeting you to buying from you, and you now have to know how many people you have to put at the top of your funnel to the bottom before you can really do a cold traffic ad campaign. But a cold traffic ad campaign is something like, you've all seen this on your feed, so I'm just going to use something that is like, there's like an artist entrepreneur ad that runs all the time, which is like, what is the one thing that you can do in order to make your art career better? And you click on it, and then it says, sign up and we'll send you a cheat sheet, or like an ebook, or like a thing, whatever the thing is. And you sign up, you get a free thing, and now someone's inside your funnel. Am I losing you? You're understanding what I'm saying? Okay, I just want to make sure that so now they're in their funnel. You've not gained anything from them on that ad, or at the first time you meet somebody. But they are now on your mailing list. You're now assuming that because they signed up for a freaking thing about how to turn their art into a better business, they're probably interested on that stuff on some level, right? So you start feeding them information about like articles, you feed them information about things, and then you're like, hey, by the way, like, now you trust me. You need audience. I have this book about how to sell your soul, how to like make money doing this thing, and here's a link to it. But that link comes once they're inside of your funnel. So I'm much like Norm. I used to run a lot of ads. I don't do it anymore because my stuff, nobody knows. I don't have a publisher. I'm my own publisher, and no one knows who I am. So since no one knows who I am and nobody knows who my publisher is, I need to meet people in person and talk to them and get them to know me, like me, trust me. So almost everybody that comes to my booth, if they show any interest at all, not someone who is like, I don't know, no thanks, but almost anybody at all who comes to my booth who shows any interest, I ask them if they want something for free. It used to be a button, now it's a print, in return for signing up for my mailing list. So you can go from the top, so they are at least inside of my funnel. Now, those touch points come into play. Now you're getting emails from me. Now, I'm not selling you, I'm just giving you like what the information is, information that you hopefully want, otherwise you're going to opt out, but as long as you want the information, you stay in the mailing list. I show you how to get to my page, and eventually, once you work your way through that funnel, either you're going to see me at a show or buy a Kickstarter. And now those people in your warm funnel, you can actually take those emails on your email list or that like you on Facebook, and you can load those emails into a Facebook ad campaign. And now you can run an ad to those people, which is very different from running them to a cold traffic. And one more thing, and then I want to make sure we get other questions, is once somebody goes to that cold site, as long as you have Google Analytics set up, you can redirect ads to them. So someone that clicks and doesn't sign up for your mailing list, you can run an ad to them that is targeted. Now they're not a cold, now they know at least who you are. You're just trying to get them excited to like join that list. So you have to feed them another piece of content, another piece of content, another piece of content, but you're only targeting those people that come to your site and didn't sign up for your mailing list.
Yeah, I wanted to give a concrete example of what you've been talking about. I've been a Girl Scout my whole life since I was 5 years old. And I developed a relationship with one of the administrators in the Girl Scouts of Greater Los Angeles Council. She used to be an image editor. And so when we crossed paths in the Girl Scout world, I was like, we should go have dinner because we have a lot of things in common and this is very bizarre. How have we not met before? And so we went to dinner and whatnot. And she also, while she was working with the Girl Scouts, became the director of programming for Long Beach Comic Con. So this is also a lesson too. Anyone, always keep people who have common interests and themes, make sure you maintain those relationships because you never know how it's going to work out. And so when she became the director of programming, she wanted to run a Girl Scout track of programming concurrent with the regular Long Beach Comic Con programming. And she said, you need to moderate my panels. And I said, I've never moderated a panel. And she said, you've been a Girl Scout for like 25 years. She's like, you run a business, you need to moderate this panel. So I started moderating panels for them, and you become that authority at that point. I am now an authority figure on the topic of women in comic books to about 60 girls every convention. And so they come because they want to see what I've done. They've listened to me talk about what I do, so now they want to just see, wow, you were a Girl Scout and now you run a company. It's very inspiring to people. And so they come, and then my husband and I they do a badge workshop right after the panel. And so we volunteer our time to do the badge workshop, and now we have girls in front of us for an hour that we're teaching how to make comic books. So we're now even more of an authority on the topic to them. And by the time that whole thing's done, I'd say 25% of the girls who heard me talk show up at my booth, and usually troop leaders will buy the book because they want to support people that volunteer for their girls and who they think are good role models to look up to. Except, point of the story is that story about being the authority figure and being someone who has all those touch points, for us it was just the perfect storm of all of that built into one opportunity. So never, when people ask you to volunteer or spend your time with them or, teach people how to do that, say yes all the time, because it's just one more way you get people to understand that you know what you're doing, and you can make those touch points much more easily once you've already established your authority on the topic.
Yeah, but on the same point, when you were talking about your audience, that fits. I would never do that. That'd be a complete waste of my time.
No. You do not do well with the Girl Scouts. No.
This is great. But for me, when people ask me to moderate panels like this, I totally will do that all day, because I know you guys probably like graphic novels. You guys, I was in there a lot. There's a lot of stuff in the back of my books that how to build your own comic books. And I have a podcast about the business of art. So there's a pretty good chance that if I'm writing a thing about about how to build an audience, some people at least come and buy my book, even if there's not their thing, just because I gave them a ton of value.
And that's, a lot of people turn down opportunities at conventions to do stuff like that because they don't want to go away from their booth because they think they're losing sales. It's the idea for 2 hours, I give up 2 hours of my time to the Girl Scouts every Long Beach convention. In those 2 hours, the amount of people walking by, those are, as he said, cold customers that you have to not only prove you know what you're doing to, get them interested in your product, and then try to get them to open their wallet to you. why the 2 hours that I'd be at the booth, I more than make up making personal connections with all these girls and their troop leaders and giving them practical advice and speaking about, at that point, not only is it about being authority figure, I'm also, as a Girl Scout, I'm trusted to these people already because I've been a Girl Scout for 25 years, and the council thought that I was good enough to moderate the panel. So, my time is much more, it's about conversion, as you were saying, it's about conversion to sales. I can do that much more easily just being myself, volunteering for the Girl Scouts, than pitching for 2 hours.
Right, because you guys on a panel that are out there in the audience have chosen to spend an hour of your undivided attention listening to the three of us. Like,
2 of us, really, we're fans.
Sorry, you didn't. You're with two talkers.
Well, I want
sorry.
to talk to you. I'm going to ask. The next question was for you.
I'm going to take a break for a moment.
You've asked us to. You've given your undivided attention to us, or somewhat divided. I'm sure some of you are looking at your phone. I don't know, but like some of you have given at least partially your undivided attention, with no expectation, and we have no expectation in return that you are going to come to your booth. We're just giving the information out. And one of the things that I know Norm does very well is this idea of switching your mindset from a sales-first mentality, which is what most people go when you're trying to build an audience, or when you're on the floor. Most people's minds begin and end with the idea that you buy a book. If you don't buy a book, I have not won anything. It's like that. Their mindset begins and ends with the sale. Whereas the way you kind of flip that on its head and become somebody that is unique when you're building an audience is to move into a more value-first mindset. Whereas like if I provide value to you, you are more likely to trust me and move your way down a funnel. And then I will be more successful because I will have created successful people. Like there's nothing better for me than seeing someone, that I've seen at a show, who then 2 years later comes by and says, "Oh crap! Like I came by your booth. I was at your panel, and now I'm on. Like now, I have like my own booth somewhere." So Norm is very good at this, talking about providing value to people and giving up your time and talking to people who come by your booth, just asking for advice and giving it away for free. And I'm interested to see, sort of like, was that a plan, or how does that work out for you? I want you to talk a little bit about like providing value first as sort of your beginning ethos.
Yeah, since I'm just in the first year of it, sometimes people come up to your booth and they're like, "Look, I've got a book I'm working on, and I want to do this, and how did you tackle this particular problem," or something like that. And I felt, generally that I'm like, man, I'm not sure yet, to be honest, but I'll exchange info with them. I'm like, email me because sometimes it requires a more specific discussion of like what the project is or whatever. And I'll do, I exchange a lot of emails with people who were like, "This is what I found," or "This is how I did it." You have a more in-depth conversation that you can't have at the booth. And I do that partially because it helps me think about things and figure them out for myself, and partially because if I can make anybody's journey to even where I'm at so far, like 2 months shorter, then I feel really good about it, and that's sort of, the value aspect of it is been really strong in terms of, I make sure that the print quality of my books is very, very strong. And what I see a lot is people come up and we talk, and they don't buy a book, but then if they've got a one-day pass, they're back at the end of the day because they didn't see another book that felt that good in their hands, or they're back if they've got a pass for the whole con. I do a lot of sales on Sunday. People are like, "Yeah, my kid wouldn't stop talking about your book, so we have to buy one before the con's over."
Yeah, I think that's part of standing out from like other people. It's like how many people have a full graphic novel that's done that looks as good as yours. For me it was how many people do hardcover, but like the more you can stand out and go from one of many to one of one and stand out in someone's mind, especially in a world where 1 million books get taken out, 1 million books will get published this year, roughly. And so to go from one of 1 million to one of one, was that part of your mindset too, where like you're trying to always make the best quality so you stand out from everyone else that's at a convention or most other people that's at a convention?
Yeah. I mean, I thought, I went to a lot of conventions before I started publishing for myself, and I just thought about what got me and what my buying habits were, and then I tried to make sure that the books I was creating met that standard of what would get me to go back to the table. Like, man, I looked at that book on Friday, and it's Sunday now, and I've been thinking about it all weekend. I need to go back and get a copy.
I love that idea because you are your best customer. Like, to me, I want to buy a book at a show. I want it to be beautiful. I want it to be complete. I want to buy from people who are engaged with me.
I don't want to have to hunt around to find the end of the story later after the convention.
Yes. So when I went to design my books, I decided I was going to make books that were beautiful, that were complete stories, that I was going to be incredibly gregarious and happy and make an experience at a table, because that is what I wanted. And if there's a good chance that if you were that kind of person, then you will be like me. Now, if I was a print person who wanted to buy a bunch of prints, it probably would have had a different experience. But can you talk a little bit about how you used yourself as a model for the rest of your audience?
I mean, everything Karate Pet Shop is just is me trying to sell to me the name Karate Pet Shop. I'm in. Whatever that company is doing, I want it. And everything got, Ricky was something, like I said, it was a fulfillment of a childhood dream. I wanted somebody else to do it, and they didn't do it, so I was fine, I'll make this. It's just constantly, I just put it through my prism, and I don't try to imagine a hypothetical person that, are they going to want this? Do I want it? And if I want it, hopefully I'm not alone in the world.
But there's no way. And the nice thing is, statistically, there's no way. You're not unique in the world. You're one of many people that are like you. That's the beauty of it. I'm not saying that as a negative. It's a positive. You can use yourself as a model and say, what kind of stuff do I like? What kind of shows do I go to? I should probably table out the kind of shows that I go to. I like small, weird, regional shows as much as I like big shows and this show. So, hell, if I like that, probably other people that are like me will go to those shows, either as exhibitors or as attendees, and then we can chill out and talk about comics together. Again, if you go to any of our tables, I don't think there's one person that hard sells at the table. We just want you to read cool stuff, especially at a show. This is why I love shows like this, because instead of Comic-Con where it's a meat market and you got to run through, I keep coming back to these two people at the front, but I was just hey, you want to see a cool thing? Take as long as you want. Just read a cool thing, and we'll see if we have a basis to, you want the book. If you don't want the book, that's all right. Yeah. But we want to put yourself in the best position, in the best places, with the best audiences that reflect who you are and the kind of books you want to make.
Yeah. And over and above the marketing, making books alone at this level, when you're your own publisher, your own editor, it's hard.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to serve a customer that isn't you, if you're trying to make something that you're well, I think it'll sell well, but I'm not passionate about it, I can't imagine ever finishing that book. I would just get fed up and walk away.
I mean, passion. How many people of you have bought a book that you were lukewarm about because the person who sold it to was passionate? Passion alone sold the book. Has anyone ever had that experience? I've done it a bunch of times. Because I say, this dude is kind of cool and he made this thing, I'm going to give it a shot because this guy is in 100% or this girl is in 100%.
One of the best lines and we can give a customer, because we sell to two different people. We sometimes sell directly to the kid, and then the parents do you like that? And the kid says yes, and that's great. And all I did was talk to the kid the whole time. And then also we're trying to sell to parents too, so we have to have two different approaches based on who we're selling to. And with the parents, sometimes we get through the premise, we get through the subtextual storyline about being fish out of water, But the line that really resonates with the parents, because they're kind of okay, this is what it is, whatever, I don't care, it's not for me. And then I'll say something you know how Sesame Street has things for adults that kids don't understand, but then the adult and the kid can sit down together and read and enjoy? And they go, oh, yeah. And I was that's what we want to do. We love, and so then we flip it and we start talking about our passion for kids and parents together watching things and both getting just as much of enjoyment out of it and creating that, and how we want parents to read with their kids again. And all of a sudden, someone who had no interest in the book at all of a sudden is perked up now. Because now we're talking about our mission statement and not just about what the book is about.
Right. Norm, do you have the same thing?
Yeah, and we basically have the same mission statement as Monster Elementary. I tell people that come to the booth, we make content for grown-up geeks to share with the next generation. There's something, like, I mean, the naughty list is basically, I don't know if I've done this book yet, but it's a rhyming children's picture book about a young boy who has to misbehave to save Christmas, and it's full of silly rhymes and comical stuff, and it's also just full of like 80s references. The kid doesn't have to get, but it's just Easter egg upon Easter egg of stuff that I loved when I was the demographic of the kid that would be reading it now, and so a parent would flip through it. And I'm like, is that a Top Gun reference? And I'm like, yeah. And they go, all right, I'm in my book. And
Yeah. I have, go ahead.
Oh,
Yes, you.
yeah, okay. I have I'm trying to formulate this question in my head, but I figure out if I just kind of talk a little bit, it might make sense. Which is that for the last couple of years, I basically just draw whatever I feel like and then have it into a comic. And so I have a very wide range of stuff. And so I'm trying to figure out the audience is very different, right? Like how do you, people who come for one thing, I'd be like, oh, I've been doing this other thing. They're like, I'm totally not interested in this other thing. Or, I feel like I'm kind of...
Sure. So I'll talk about this for a second because I have a book about a psychopath that escapes a mental asylum and becomes a monster hunter. I have a book about a girl who gets sick of living during the apocalypse and says they have to kill the devil. I have a book about grief and loss told in blog posts, which is a novel. I have a book about a disabled boy, and I have a book about a pickle that falls into a black hole, all of which were written and created by me. And people say this is a wide range of people. And I say that's not, it's not. It's made for one type of person. The same type of person who is like me, who likes things that are entertaining and thought-provoking, who wants something that they can just read and mindlessly enjoy like a Stephen King novel, but also think deeply about if they want to. The kind of person that likes Adventure Time, the kind of person that also likes Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and also likes Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We are complete human beings. Nobody is I only like horror. It's the only. There are some people that have shows that only like Batman, which I don't understand. They're like, is it Batman? I'm like, no. They're like, I don't want to just want Batman. I'm like, that is a set. That is. But even those people, they like the '66 Batman. They like the Tim Burton Batman. They just like all Batman things, which I think is a little bit odd. But since this is being recorded, I'll end it there. But to me, this comes down to a customer profile, an ideal customer profile, the kind of person that I want to sell to. Likes to be entertained and think deeply about stuff. They want books that aren't just Marvel, DC, shoot 'em ups. They like that stuff, but they also like blasphemy and sacrilege and psychology and they want to do this thing. So I think when it comes down to it, and this really didn't happen until I had multiple books. This may be a great time for you. I had these two books, which were kind of easy. They were both monster books. But then I came out with a book about, I had a book about a girl whose father committed suicide and sets out to prove that it's a murder. It's told all in blog posts. A mystery novel, not horror, not monsters. And I sat there before my Kickstarter launched, and I was like, what kind of person who in my audience would possibly buy this other thing? And it came up with, the kind of B character that I have. It's all the people in my audience who I kept seeing over and over again that liked the things that we were doing had kind of the same rebellious spirit. They were creative, artistic. They were usually college graduates, if not master's degree program graduates. They were professionals or working towards the professional level. They all, had this sort of weird, unique style to them. They all kind of shared the same core, I don't want to say value, but the same core personality traits, or a lot of them did. And so I started saying, that kind of person, rebellious, weird, off-kilter, practical, disrespects authority, that's the kind of person that would like all of these things. Because those people are like me. I like horror movies. I also like Juno, and I also like Adventure Time, and I like all these different weird things, but it's still me. All of those things have the same kind of core character traits at the base of it.
We took a little bit different of an approach. I have to speak back to my husband since he's the writer of the book, but he got his big break winning a webcomic contest by DC Comics, writing a gory R-rated comic about a serial killer called Pray for Death. We would not be able to sell that to this demo. Just can't do it. So, DC had the rights tied up for a while and was selling on Comixology. That was all great and fine. And then he had this idea, and we made the choice, because he eventually did get his rights back from DC, and we could do something with it, but we're going to go whole hog here. Because if we can get a big enough audience, we do have adults that don't have kids that read these books and like horror in general, and so our idea is once he becomes a big enough name, we can revisit the other things he likes to write.
I want that thing.
Yeah.
I don't pray for death.
It's not available right now, but I could probably get you a copy.
Awesome.
We could probably work that out. But it's, we're taking a different approach, which is focus on the one thing, build up your core audience base, and then some of those people might read the gory serial killer one, but then we at least start with a fan base there, and we can build that fan base. So
Okay, this is a much better, this is a much better scenario because you can then build a bigger audience quickly. I had the issue of me and with Norm. I'd love you to talk about this too as we wrap up. Is I had a bunch of shit that was disparate, like you. I had things that were I had made different things. And I was I'm just not going to put that. I'm not going to not put this out. I'm going to put it all out because I made it. And so it came okay, well, how do I condense all of this stuff into a human being that would actually like that? And that's when I realized people are three-dimensional human beings. I read also, I watch DC anime. We talked about this. I'm not going to rehash it. Norm, can you talk about this too as we wrap up? Because I feel you have a lot of...
I'm a little bit more like Gwen and Nick's approach. And I'll take it back to the food analogy, and I don't know what that says about me. But I like pancakes, and I like spaghetti, and I like tacos. If I go to a restaurant and they have all three of those on the menu, without even tasting it, I'm probably going to assume this is not the best version of these dishes I'm ever going to have in my life.
What about Cheesecake Factory?
If I go to a restaurant that's we're just a small Italian bistro, I'm I got to try the spaghetti. So I like all those things, but I try to just focus on one thing. The thing that, I love horror. I have no aptitude for creating horror content. So I kind of zeroed in on what I know I'm at least kind of good at, and hope other people feel the same way. But I think that focus, even when you have other interests and you have other things that you like, focus can be your strongest.
So both of these people. Yeah.
Well, just real quick, if we could talk. Do you mind if I mention the books? Because I'm so focused that Russell had a couple of kids' books that were. They're excellent books, and they're actually a little younger than my audience. Even though I've got nothing but all
way younger than my audience.
And so I got them from him and tried to table them in the con because we were both this could work out well if we combine forces. And I couldn't it threw off my whole game because I had my books that were for you got to be about 6 years of age and older, and his books were for toddlers, and I couldn't get the sales pitch right, even though they feel like they should belong together. I'm so focused that even that threw me off. I
think the message we're sending is that absolutely diversify. Write everything you want to do, draw everything you want to do. But when you're starting out, this is the business side of being an artist now. You may want everything out there you've ever done. You want to flood the market with it, but find your demo. Pick of your demos which one you think you're going to find the most success with. Put all your energy. This is just my advice. Put all your energy into that one thing, and then build your base, and then go from there. Don't go too quick, too soon.
Yeah, my way's the much harder path. It's way harder. It's the Stephen King path, which is it's not these. It's it's much broader. And mine was built out of necessity of having to find a thing that had so many disparate pieces in genres and formats that I had made. I had to innovate how I sold to a market, and it's I found people that like the thing that I like and kind of built it together. Before we end, which I know we have to do, I want to go down from Norm to Gwen, and then finally with me, with where we can find where booth we're at, and where you can find us online.
You can find us at booth 339 with our free coloring station, and we're also online at karatepetshop.com, Facebook, we're Karate Pet Shop, Twitter, we're Karate Pet Shop. Pet Shop is one word, that's on purpose, even though that's not technically correct. And I've got bookmarks here with all that info that everyone's welcome to.
So remember the thing where I said make it easy for people to find you? monsterelementary.com/Monster Elementary on Facebook, @MonsterElem. Very simple. Make people it's easy to find.
So that was our How to Build an Audience from Scratch panel with Gwendolyn Dreyer and Norm Harper from Ape 2016. And I hope you got a lot out of that. I know I did. I loved listening to those two people, to Norm and Gwen, talk about how they built an audience and how it differs from how I build an audience. Every time I do this panel, I learn a whole bunch. If you like this episode, please head on over to thebusinessofart.us. Subscribe today. Join our mailing list. Head on over to iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM, Google Play, or anywhere else you download your podcasts. Subscribe there, rate, review. It only takes a few seconds, and it helps more than you can ever imagine. And thanks a lot, wannabes and creators. I will see you next time.